So this is a video of day 2 solving quadratics by factoring and the quadratic formula. Starting with slide 2 here. The first thing I want to do with this equation is add 7 to both sides. I'm going to do that. I have x squared minus, get text editor here, minus 7x. And then when I add 7 to this side here, you get a 6 equals 0. You want to find the factors of 6 that add up to -7. And that would be -6 and -1. So the two factors are going to be x minus 6 and x minus 1 equals 0. Now you want to equate each factor to 0. X minus 6 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. Solve each equation. So in the first equation, I'm going to add 6. In the second equation, add 1 to both sides. I get 6 or 1. So here's an illustration of the whole problem. First, I added 7 to both sides. X squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. Find the factors of 6. Then when I add them together, I get -7. That's -6 and -1. So this factors into x minus 6 times x minus 1. Equate each factor to 0. Solve for x equals 6, or x equals 1. The second one, there's a greatest common factor of x. I'm going to divide out of x. 3x squared divided by x is 3x. And then x divided by x is just 1. So the factored form is x times 3x plus 1. Next, you're going to equate each factor to 0. X equals 0, or 3x plus 1 equals 0. There's no solving involved here. X is equal to 0. Or I'm going to solve the second equation, subtract 1 and divide by 3. So x equals -1/3. So here's a look at the whole problem. Factor out a greatest common factor of x. You have the factors x times 3x plus 1. Equate each factor to 0, x equals 0, or x equals negative 1 times. Here is an example where my leading coefficient is not 1, it's 3. So the first thing you're going to do is multiply a times c. That's negative 12. Find the factors of negative 12 that sum to negative 1. Those are negative 4 and 3. Next, I'm going to take the leading coefficient and divide it into both of those. Which is the same as my a value, leading coefficient. It's 3 here. Negative 4 over 3. And 3 over 3. Simplify those two fractions if I can. Negative 4/3 doesn't simplify. And 3 over 3 becomes 1 over 1. You're going to make factors from the fractions. Negative 4/3 becomes 3x minus 4. One over 1 becomes x plus 1. The factored form of the original, 3x we put this in parentheses, 3x minus 4 times x plus 1 equals 0. Equate each factor to 0. X is 4/3. Or x equal negative 1. So just to review here, multiply a and c together, and then find the factors of negative 12 that add up to a negative 1, or negative 4 and 3, and then take the leading coefficient here, my a value, divide that into both factors, negative 4/3 and 3/3. Simplify those two, negative 4/3 and 1/1, and then make the factors from the fractions. So this becomes, the denominator becomes the coefficient of x, the numerator becomes the constant or number there. Negative 4/3 becomes 3x minus 4, and 1/1 becomes x plus 1. Equate each of the factors to 0 and solve. 4/3 or negative 1. And then factor the leading coefficient is not equal to 1. In the next slide, slide 3. I'm going to multiply a and c together here. 6 times negative 5 equal negative 30. Find the factors negative 30 at sum to negative 7, negative 10, and negative 3, or positive 3. Divide both numbers by leading coefficient. Negative 10 divided by 6. And 3 divided by 6. Oh, hit the wrong number there. Simplify those fractions. Negative 5/3 and 1/2. Make those fractions into factors. Negative 5/3 becomes 3x minus 5. One half becomes 2x plus 1. Factor form then is 3x minus 5 times 2x plus 1 equals 0. equate each factor to 0. And then solve both of those equations. Solving the first equation, x is going to be 5/3. And the second one, -1/2. Second one, multiply a and c together. E times -4. The factors of -12 that sum to -1. Would be -4 and 3. So the leading coefficient here is 3. You can divide both of those by 3. -4/3 and be over 3. Simplify. I think I did this one in the warm-up. I'm not sure though. The factors then are 3x minus 4 and x plus 1. Equate the factors to 0. X is 4/3 or x equal -1. So one problem with making the slides bigger here, you can't see the whole problem. Probably better if it's bigger. You can see when I'm typing better. Next, you're going to do 6 times -7. factors of negative 42 that add to negative 1. Negative 7 and 6. So the leading coefficient here is 6. Negative 7 over 6. Simplify if you can. Negative 7 over 6 doesn't simplify. Factored form of the original, then 6x. Get the equation editor here. 6x minus 7 times x plus 1 equate each factor to 0. And solve. X is 7/6. Or x equal negative 1. And the last one here on this slide, I did this one in class. 5 times negative 21 is negative 105. Factors of negative 105 that sum to negative 32. Negative 35 and 3. So divide by the leading coefficient, in this case is 5. Negative 35 over 5. And then simplify. Negative 35 over 5 becomes negative 7 over 1. And 3/5 you can't simplify. Factored form then is x minus 7 times 5x plus 3 equate each factor to 0. X is 7 or x is negative 3/5. This should be actually ends here. I did the same thing in class. We started with ends. We should be consistent here with, doesn't matter if I change the variable, but try not to confuse anyone here. This all in here. And this one should be B's here. Sorry if that confused anyone, but this should be A. Right, so just to review the answers, the first problem, x is 5/3 or x equal negative 1/2. Second one, a is 4/3 or a equal negative 1. Third one, b is 7/6 or b equal negative 1. And the last one, n equals 7 or n equal negative 3/5. So slide 4 is some extra practice where the leading coefficient is 1. You want to find the factors at 35 that give you a 12. So it's 7 and 5. If you equate each factor to 0, you get r equal negative 7 or negative 5. Second one, you want to find the factors of negative 21 that add together to get negative 4. That would be negative 7 and positive 3. Equate each factor to 0, which I skipped that step in the first one, but let me write it here. M minus 7 equals 0, or m plus 3 equals 0. M equals 7 or m equals -3. Third one here has a common factor of x. Equate each factor to 0, x equals 0. X equals 0 or x equals 8. This one, you have to add 4 to both sides first. X squared plus 6x, and then minus 7 equals 0. And the factors of -7 that give you positive 6, the positive 7 and -1. So x plus 7 is similar to the other one, but these two numbers were reversed here. I get -7 or 1 there. And then slide 5 just goes through how to find the quadratic formula from the general form. So 6, 7, and 8, slide 6, 7, and 8, you're just plugging into the quadratic formula. So this first one, a is 2, b -5, c is -10, and plugging into the quadratic. I'm going to make parentheses because of make a fraction here eventually. The opposite of -5 is +5. And then on my keyboard, if I just hit Alt 241, it would be the plus or minus symbol. And I can just type SQRT, gives me the square root symbol. -5 squared is 25, minus 4. My a value is 2, and my c value is -10. And I'm going to divide all that by 2 times 2, which is 4. So 5, well, 241 gives me the plus or minus square root. And then I'm going to simplify what's under here. 4 times 2 times 10 is 80, and then I get negative 80 here, and then the opposite would be positive 80. So 80 plus 25, 105. Oh, 105, not 104. Let me get rid of these parentheses here. And I'm done with that one. Next one, A is 3, B is 10, C is 6. So the opposite of positive 10 is negative 10. Plus or minus square root 10 squared is 100 minus 4 times A value is 3 and C is 6. Divided by 2 times 3, which is 6. So we need to simplify what's under the radical. Negative 10 plus or minus square root. And this would be 100 minus 72. 12 times 6 is 72. 100 minus 72 is 28. So there's ways to simplify this, but I'll just accept that as the answer there. There's a riddle worksheet in the packet where you have to simplify things like this to get the correct answer. That's slide 6. Slide 7 is just 2 more solved by the quadratic formula. Here, I would have to subtract 6 from both sides. So A is 5, B is 3, C is going to be negative 6 when I take it over to the other side. So the opposite of 3 is negative 3. Plus or minus square root. And B squared is 9. Minus 4 times my A value is 5. And my C value is negative 6. And divide all that by 2 times 5 is 10. Negative 3 plus or minus, and then simplify what's under the radical. 9, and then negative 4 times 5 times negative 6 would be positive 120. So 129. and divided by 10. And then the last one, you want to, or the second one on slide 7, you want to get this 3 over here, it becomes negative 3. So A is 2, B is 9, and C is negative 3. So the opposite of 9 is negative 9. And plus or minus B squared is 81. Minus 4 times A value is 2. And C is negative 3. And divided by 2 times A, which is 4. Negative 9 plus or minus. I'm simplifying what's under that radical. Negative 4 times 2 times negative 3 would be positive 24. So 81 and 24 is 105. Takes care of those two. And then on the last slide here, 8. Slide 9 is just shows you how to do one of the problems on the riddle sheet there. So on slide 8, A is negative 5, B is 4, C is 2. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. Plus or minus square root of B squared would be 16. Whoops. Put that under the square root there. Minus 4 times negative 5 times 2. And divide by 2 times negative 5. Simplify what's under the radical. Negative 4 plus or minus square root 16. And then negative 4 times 5 is negative 5 is 20 times 2 is 40 plus 16 is 56. By negative 10. You could leave it like that, or since a negative divided by a negative is a positive, do x equal 4 plus or minus square root 56 divided by 10. I wouldn't take anything off because you're going to make both of these positive here. And then the second one on slide 8, you would have to get this 5 over here. So a is negative 2, b is 8, c would be negative 5 when I subtract 5 from both sides. X equal, the opposite of 8 is negative 8. Wrong key there. Plus or minus square root of b squared would be 64 minus 4 times a is negative 2 times c is negative 5, and then divided by 2 times negative 2 would be negative 4. So negative 8 plus or minus square root, and then 64. 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. So 64 minus 40 is 24. Divided by negative 4. And once again, you could change these both to be positive. All right, this is the second one on slide 8. I'm not going to go over slide 9. It's all done for you there. So you can take a look at it if you're doing some extra practice with the riddle sheet there.